knife I got going. It is a lovely 16 degrees outside. I got the heat going, so at least you can't really see my breath anymore. So what I'm working on right now, on the progress of this hunter knife, is a 4-inch full tang knife. It's got a rosewood handle, and I got 3 mechanical connections in it, and it's been epoxy. So if you check out on my channel, you can see some of the process of gluing the epoxying the scales onto the tang. So I had it in the knife vise. I got it all clamped down so nothing moved. I got the pins glued in as well. And so now, before I pull the C-clamps off the scales, I'm going to start compressing the pins a little bit. That way it keeps that tension and pressure. So when I release the clamps, it'll expand just enough to catch, and it'll keep everything nice, right, and tight. So what I typically like to do, if I can, I shorten the pins up a little bit so that way the exposed pin is the same diameter as the pin, so it's essentially a little square. That helps really get the mushroom shape down for the compression, but unfortunately I didn't place my clamp placement to where I could easily trim those without it being too much of an issue, without cutting into my clamps and ruining the cutting tool I'm using. So I got a little bit different of a setup today. I haven't tried it this way. I don't see why it wouldn't work, but I'm at least going to get them compressed enough, that way I can pull the clamps off and I can finish working on this knife handle. So let me get you guys adjusted so you can see what I'm doing. If I can get to cooperate. So here's the knife I'm working on, and you can see the C-clamps, and underneath I got it clamped in the vise. Stay put, you silly. So I got it clamped in the vise, and then I have this little chisel underneath to act as like an anvil underneath it, so that way it compresses both sides as I tap. And then I got this flat punch, which is bigger than the pins, so that way I can use this to push down. So let's give it a shot. Here's the pin. It's kind of hard to see in the camera. You see right there? That's the breast pin. So we're just going to give this a few whacks and see how it goes. I'm going nice and easy, and I'm watching the grain and the wood to make sure nothing's going to crack or start to split. And my chisel slid out, so I got to tighten this up a little bit so that it can't move. But it's working. I'm starting to mushroom the top of this guy, so I know the compression's working, because if there wasn't a bottom, I could just drive that pin right out, because it's just epoxy. Epoxy is a nice like waterproofer, and it helps fill in the gaps and voids, so that way you don't get moisture in there and pop the scales apart. And it's not a guaranteed like hold your knife together kind of thing, because it is just glue. So we're gonna reclamp here, get some pressure down on it, so that way it gets a better bite, less likely for it to bounce. And I'm not wailing on it, I'm just giving it nice easy taps. That way I can watch everything and make sure nothing's going, and then I can control my punch placement better, so that way it mushrooms nice and square. It doesn't want to kick the pin over. And then if it starts to bend or move a little, I can compensate where it goes. As you can see, it wants to dance around a lot. That's because it's flat steel on flat steel. And then the extra mushrooming I will grind off. We're gaining. It's hard to see the bottom side just because it's so close to the leg vise. I'll try and do my hand placement so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. And these are brass pins, so they're pretty easily manipulable. They're pretty malleable. There we go. So it doesn't take a lot of force to make it do something, but it can crack kind of easy. And everything looks like it's going nice and square and even, which is wonderful. We like that. And as the pin squishes down, all that pressure and material has to go somewhere. So what it does, it pushes out, and that helps pull it tight to the hole, because I over drill the hole just a little bit. That way when I set everything up, it's easier to line up and easier to get the scales exactly where I want it, because I pre-shape the scales to the profile of the tang. That way it's a little less work later. And this is just masking tape, electrical tape. I cut it to fit snugly all the way around the scale. That way it helps protect the blade, because this is all polished. The only thing I have left to do is electro etch it, but it's all polished up and I really don't want to damage the knife. So I wrap this in electrical tape because it doesn't leave any weird residues you got to clean off later. And if it does, it's very minimal. And it also, it's really durable tape. So it helps with scratches and abrasions and heat and stuff like that. So I can minimize potential damage to that. So we'll give this guy a couple more good whacks and then we'll move on to the next. Then once the compression's set in, I can take the clamps off, and then I can really make sure that everything's right tight and how it's supposed to be. And by doing light taps, you can see if anything's starting to change. And you'll see, it's hard to tell on the camera, but when you look at it, the diameter of the pin that's showing is expanding. That's good, because it's tightening up in the tang and it's tightening up on the scales, getting a nice secure mechanical hold. And the mushrooming keeps it from coming past the pin. So as the top squishes, it also mushrooms out because there's more room for expansion above the scale than inside the scale. So we're just looking to tighten it up, mushrooming it out on the top to help give it a secure hold so it can't pull away from the tang. I see a lot of folks using Corby bolts, which they're threaded little screws with an insert and an insert and a socket, and you tighten them down and you grind off the tops, and they're already kind of pre-mushroomed already because they have a taper to them. So when you tighten it, it really pulls everything right together. So I haven't tried using Corby bolts, and I think I might try. I think that would probably be a lot easier in a lot of ways. Readjust my punch is dancing a little bit. That's pretty well mushroomed. So now I'm going to get a new spot. We're going to do the center now. Just keep working down the line. Guys shuffled over so you can. And you can see the pin right there. That's the next one we're going to be working on. Let's see if I can turn this clamp to help you guys. And this one is a little bit taller, so it wants to bend, which is why I like making them the same diameter. That way I got plenty of room for expansion, but it also allows for minimal kick over. But we're holding good on the bottom. Keep working the pin. hard to tell in the camera, but you can see that it's starting to flare on the top, and as it goes down, the compression is making it flare at the scale, which is what we're looking for. And brass is really easy. It's really soft. So grinding that extra will take a couple seconds and it'll just come right off. And then once I get some compression, I can pull the scales off and I can work these pins on my anvil instead, where I have a better vantage point and it works a lot quicker. But you risk also damaging your scales a little more. We're just looking to get some compression so that way I don't lose any progress from the clamps. That's pretty good. And this one's right tight to the clamp on the bottom, because when I put it together, it wasn't nice and perfectly square. So there's a little wiggle room I need to make here. And the flatter I can keep the knife too, it'll keep it from kicking. And it'll help the pin mushroom evenly. I think that's fairly good. That's kind of not ideal. This way is definitely taking a lot longer. We'll give it a shot. Make sure nothing moved or broke. Just slipped out the clamp. That's the problem when they're all on one side. It creates leverage here and it wants to pop up. But we got some good mushrooming, so I think we have it. Check our bottom side. Those are mushroomed out from the impact on the bottom. Now that we got all those on, all the scales look good. I don't see any cracking. Which, if it does crack, I can show you guys like a glue to fill that crack. If it does crack, it's really handy. Keep these filings while you're sanding. The finer the better. You mix it with epoxy and clear epoxy, and you fill in the crack. And when you mix this in with that clear epoxy, it acts as a dye, so it matches perfectly and you can't see the crack at all. You hand sand the extra off the top. You can't even tell it was cracked, and it holds it together and keeps moisture out of it from popping. But we're gonna pop our clamps off. Our clamps feel looser. I don't know if that was from the impact or from working, or if it's because it's more compressed and the clamps are holding. They're definitely a lot looser than when I put them on, which is good. That's what we're looking for. That means everything's nice and tight. I probably don't need to do too much more mushrooming. There we are. I'm gonna touch them up a little bit on the anvil now that I got everything pulled off so I can see, but everything's nice and tight all the way up through on both sides. The back's tight. Nothing's popping off. And obviously this is not ready to use because I still gotta contour and shape the handle, but everything looks really good. Even up here by the blade, I don't see any separation, which is wonderful. So I'm gonna get you guys set up by the anvil, and then we can do some more tapping. Cool. It's gonna be a really nice handle. I like the size. I got some finger wells in there to lock your hand in while you're using it. And I'm gonna, it'll be a lot more user friendly when the handle's shaped to fit your hand, but you'll be able to even hold it this way and lock your hands into place, because this being a hunting knife, you never know what situation you're gonna get into, and you never know what you're gonna have to be dealing with. So with hunting knives, you're dressing animals, you're using it as tools out in the woods. Your hands are always wet, so I want to make sure you have a good, secure grip on this guy. And then it's gonna be really beautiful when it's done. I'm looking forward to it. This has got a mirror finish. I know it's hard to tell, but the finished product, I'll definitely put it out there so you guys can see it. Nice. I'm really happy with how it's turning out. This knife is going to be my first knife that I'm selling. Yes, I've decided to start selling them. After some rigorous testing with another knife that I made my first Damascus. It's low layer, it's only 11 layers because I don't have any power hammers or presses out here in my shop. So I have to do everything by hand, and folding that steel is a lot. But it's the same style and design. And the base, one of the layering is 1095 and 15 and 20. This knife is made of 1095, so it holds an edge really well. And I dressed 2 deer with it. With the Damascus knife, I dressed 2 deer, and then I also quartered them up. That way I could bring them to the meat processor to get them packaged. So it was a lot of bone on bone. I skunned the animals with them as well, and it held an edge for the entire season. It's got a little bit of dulling on it, but it was through heavy abuse. So the field testing proved to me that the knives are quality enough to be a useful tool for somebody with minimal effort. They are high carbon steel, so they could rust if you don't take care of them. They're not stainless. I haven't graduated stainless yet, but I'm gonna get you guys set up so we can do some more pin work. Pardon my shop, it's a mess. Get you guys over here to the oven. That'll work. So now, the tricky part is making sure you're square. So you just gotta be really careful. Keep it level. And same hammer, this is a, I think this is a 16 ounce ball peen. And just light taps. And as you can see, it's mushrooming a lot faster on this because I can actually apply more force of the hammer, and I'm not losing a lot of inertia through the pins and the posts, you know, all the chisels and stuff. So and brass is soft, so gentle taps. You don't want to wail on it like you're forging. It's also a lot easier when they're taller, when you're with a hammer, for them just to kick over. So you just got to really be careful on your hammer control. And if you have to, you can shave these down to make them a little smaller and then keep going. And you can use the edge of your anvil to make sure you don't have extra bounce, more control. And then with the anvil, this anvil's rebound is about 85%. So 85% of the inertia coming from the hammer down is reflected through the bottom. So it's like 2 hammers tapping at the same time, except one's a whisker smaller. just using the hammer's weight. I'm not applying a lot of force, I'm literally just dropping it. That's all I'm doing, just dropping it. Using the hammer's weight, the hammerhead's weight to do the work for me. And brass is really soft, so it doesn't take much. And I'm really inspecting the scales to make sure I don't see any cracking in the grain. That way I don't over tighten it. You want your hammer nice and square, because if it's kicked over, the pin is going to want to flop over. So I think I'm going to take this to the grinder real quick and shorten that guy up a little bit. It's wanting to kick over, and I don't want it to oblong the hole and lose my good bite, so bear with me. Well, I got them sanded down a little bit, so that way they're a little nicer of a height. And if you have to sand these down, go just quick little touches so they don't get hot. Because what it'll do, if these pins get hot, it'll actually break down the epoxy and soften it, so it's not going to hold like it should. So now that we got them all a little more even, I'm going to give them a couple more gentle taps. It's hard to tell in the camera because of the angle you guys are at, but as you tap on the brass, where your hammer connects will be shiny, and where it didn't connect will be a duller color, so you can see where you need to actually strike, which is why it's important to go slow, so that way you can steer the pin to make sure it stays nice and straight, and that way you get some good mushrooming. So right now I'm just working the hammer in a rotating pattern to work all the way around the edge of the pin to make sure we have an even compression. And it's important to go nice and soft, because if you miss, hit your scale, you don't blow your scale apart and have to start over. Those are tightening up really well. I think we just about have it. Hear that sound change? That's because the hammer is now tapping the scale. That's why you go soft, because if you hit too hard, you'll blow your scale apart. But that's telling me that the mushrooming is almost at the scale level, so when I rotate my hammer to work the edge, I'm actually connecting more on the scale than on the pin itself. So it's very important to listen to how the sound changes too. But I think we got it. Everything looks right and tight. I don't see any cracking We have a nice mushrooming, good compression. So I think I'm ready to start shaping this guy out. But that is how I like to peen brass pins. So we get a nice secure mechanical connection and a lot more secure fit. Because if this is stored in a spot or it's in an area where it's really hot, the epoxy will soften and contract when it gets colder. So the secure mechanical connection keeps the scales from moving, which is really what you want, because if it moves too much, you get cracks and separation, and then water can get in, it can freeze, cause corrosion, and now your handle could potentially fail or not be as comfortable, and it can shorten the life of the knife. So that's why mechanical connections are really important, especially when doing stuff that takes a lot of force. Like if you're trying to chop wood or something, you got a split kindling wood with it and hit the back with a piece of wood to drive it through. That shock transfers through the handle and into your hand. Well, what happens is that shock can loosen up the scales if it's just epoxy, and it can pop a scale right off, which is why the mechanical connection keeps that nice and secure, so the vibration is less likely to blow stuff apart. There it is. Yep, so now it's time to take it to the grinder and smooth these out. I like the width of the handle already, so I'm not going to do too much grinding on the sides, because the width is actually pretty nice. It fits my hands pretty average, so it fits fairly well. It's a little square, obviously, so it's not quite so comfortable, but I need to do some indentations here at the finger wells. That way you get a nice secure grip, and I'm going to do a little flare in the back to help lock this into your hand. But when I'm shaping scales, I like to just kind of put it in my hand and feel it as I go. That way I can make sure I don't take off too much. But this guy is going to be for sale on the Mountain Deer Inner Circle Facebook page. You have to be a member to get early access to this guy. If it doesn't sell, because this is a collaboration with Mountain Deer, so if this doesn't sell, then it'll be available on my social media if anybody is interested in it. It's going to have a Kydex sheath to go with it, and then I'm going to incorporate a little how to take care of it card in with it, so you know how to prolong the life of this guy, and hopefully be something you can pass down to somebody and they can use it. So I wanted to make things that could last multiple lifetimes, preferred. So, but I want to thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate all the support that you guys have given me throughout my short time knife making and all things blacksmith. But I hope you're having a great weekend. Hope you're able to relax and spend some time on you and your fam and your friends and not be stressed out. But keep your eyes open. More to come. Take care, guys, and God bless. I always do that with my hand right in front of the camera.